Sim.
Samsara Davana la vida loca Ganaya Karunya Gananatva
Samsara la vida loca Ganaya Karunya Gananatva
Prapasya Karyana Gunanavasya
Praptasya Kalyana Gunanavasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda
Mahaprabhu Kirtana Nitya Gita Varitamaya Manashodasena
Mahaprabhu Kirtana Nitya Gita Paditramadya Manasodasena
Vande Guru Sri Charanaravinda Vande Guru Sri Charanaravinda Vande Guru Sri Charanaravinda Chaturvida Sri Bhagavat Prasado Swadhana Tritan Hari Bhakta Sangha Chaturvida Sri Bhagavat Prasado Swadhana Tritan Hari Bhakta Sangha Kirtaiva Triptim Vajata Sadaiva Vande Guru Sri Charanaravinda Vande Guru Sri Charanaravinda Vande Guru Sri Charanaravinda Sri Radhika Madhava Jarapara Madhurya Lila Guna Rupanamna Pratisana Swadhana Lalupasya Vande Guru Sri Charanaravinda Vande Guru Sri Charanaravinda Vande Guru Sri Charanaravinda Nikunja Juno Ratika Lisija Jajali Virju Tirapekshanija Tatratidaksya Dati Valavasya Vande Guru Sri Charanaravinda Vande Guru Sri Charanaravinda Vande Guru Sri Charanaravinda Saksadari Tvena Samasta Sastra Uktastatava Vyata Eva Shabdi Kintu Pravartya Priya Eva Tasya Vande Guru Sri Charanaravinda Vande Guru Sri Charanaravinda Vande Guru Sri Charanaravinda Jayas Prasadam Bhagavat Prasadam Vadas Prasadam Nagati Kutapi Jayastu Vastasya Jayastri Sandhya Vande Guru Sri Charanaravinda Sharanaravinda Vande Guru Sri Sharanaravinda Vande Guru Sri Sharanaravinda Shiman Guru Rastakaneta Ducha Brahme Muhurti Patati Prajatna Yastena Vrindavana Nata Saksha Sevai Balavya Janusutta Eva Vande Guru Sri Charanaravinda Vande Guru Sri Charanaravinda Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva. Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva. Tera Prana Shikaye Sharanagati Bhakti Anyayatmani Vedhana Utete Varana Anyayatmani Vedhana Utete Abhasyarati Ve Krishna Vishwasa Anukula matra Rajirasi Kara Bhakti Anukula Rajirasi Kara Bhakti Praktikula Rajanangi Kara Bhakti Rajanangi Sharanagati Hoye Beja Hara Saranga Sharanagati Hoye Beja Hara Ahara Pratana Sune Srinanda Kumara Dante Trina Kori Rupasana Dante Trina Kori Bhakati Vinodha Pati Doi Padari Bhakati Vinodha Pati Kadhiya bole amitoya dhamma Kadhiya kadhiya bole amitoya dhamma Shikoye sharanagati garahe dhamma
Start Chaitanya chant. Rasa Vrindavanam Bande Krishna Rasa Prabhum Tata Chanavatar Chaitanya Leela Vishtar Kadino Do Nityananda Parabja Karunare Nabushito Vyakta Chano Burachincho Vavande Vyasalutano Shri Guru Gaur Gandharva Govindascha Ganai Saha Jayanti Patakascha Sarvesham Gurunartina. So we are continuing with Chaitanya Charitamrita, and Are we still in the same spot? Oh yeah, that's right. So we're in Adi Lila chapter 6, the glories of Advaita Acharya, and Kaviraj Goswami was just making this point, everyone surrounding Krishna naturally surrenders to him in love. Even, Advaita Acharya, who's actually Mahavishnu, he also is fully surrendered to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then we heard these beautiful verses. So then he also gives this example of Nanda Maharaj, right? Nanda Maharaj, who is Krishna's father, right? He also has this deep mood of surrender for his own son. Of course, it's kind of a funny thing because, sometimes we hear how, Mother Jashoda has to beat Krishna, right? And Nanda Maharaj has to correct him. And generally they're under the influence of Yoga Maya, right? And so they're not considering his divinity, right? But there are moments when you see it peeping through, like some awareness, right? And so this is one example. And it's very beautiful, and it's very humble expression. It's Uddhava is leaving, because remember Krishna sent Uddhava, right, to give comfort to the residents of Vrindavan, although he made things worse in a way, right? All this like gyan and Brahman conception, and they're like, what are you doing? And so then he's leaving, and as he's leaving, Nanda Maharaj approaches him with these very humble prayers, and it's actually interesting because he refers to Krishna as your Krishna. That's how he says it. Yeah, in this Bengali of Kaviraj Goswami, and then also in the original Sanskrit verse in Bhagavatam, it looks like he says, or at least Swami Maharaj in his translation, he puts it like that, your Lord Krishna, like this kind of humble feeling, like, oh, now he doesn't belong to us so much, now he's with you, and, in Dwarka. But he expresses this very beautiful mood of surrender. And so I think we read these the other day, but we can read them again. And this one, Srila Sridhar Maharaj includes in Prapana Jivanamrita, this first one. The second one I've heard Srila Sridhar Maharaj quote, and there's a recording of him quoting it, and he actually sings it. It's very, very beautiful. So this is the first one. Manaso Vritayo Nasyu. Maybe could you pass me a copy of Prapana Jivanamrita? Maybe we can see which section Srila Sridhar Maharaj included it in. Thank you. So this is the verse. Manaso Vritayo Nasyu. Krishna, do you have a mat?
I do.
Okay. Manaso Vritayo Nasyu. Krishna Parambujashaya. Vacho Bidhayi Nirnamnam. Kayas Tat Pravanadishu. May our minds be attached to the lotus feet of your Lord Krishna. May our tongues chant his holy names, and may our bodies lie prostrate before him. So we hear sometimes in the Vedas, right, in the scriptures, this expression kai, man, vak, right, and there's this conception like full surrender of these three aspects of our existence, right? The kai is the body. Man is the mind, and then vakya is words, right? And then it's also said, right, about this is really what real sannyas is, right? The Tridanda represents these three aspects, which of course you don't require sannyas dress of danda to try and practice. But in general, in the life of Sharanagati, we're trying to surrender these three, in a wholesale way, these three aspects. So Nanda Maharaj is expressing very beautifully, right? In every one of these aspects, may they be expressed in devotion to Krishna. So our minds will be remembering him, our tongues, the faculty of speech, right, chanting his names, his glories, and our bodies are giving obeisance to him. And I'm going to see where Param Guru Maharaj includes it in Prapana Jivanamrita. I don't remember which section it is. 6, chapter 6, verse 11. And this, of course, is the best book. What did you say? Only book. Beginning, middle, and end. Embracing the Lord's guardianship. In this section.
What's the Sanskrit?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. What is it? Don't remember. Gopchiche Vadanam. And it's also put as, how is it put also? Bhakti Vinod puts it. Gopchiche Vadanam. Dvainya Atma Nivedan. Gopchiche. Oh, but then I'm trying to think. I think it's put in another way too. But anyway, I can't remember. Gopchicha and embracing the Lord's guardianship. And this is and Srila Maharaj's illumination for this verse is Nitya Parashada Pi Sarvatmana Shri Krishna Shayam Partayanta. Even the eternal associates of the Lord pray wholeheartedly for his shelter. And the translation here, O Uddhava, may our thoughts take refuge in the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. May our words be the chanting of his holy names. And may our bodies be engaged in making obeisance unto him. Okay. So that's the first verse here. And then the next verse, and they're next to each other in Bhagavatam. Very beautiful also. Karmar bir brahmyamananam yacha kvapishvarechaya mangala chariter danaya datir na Krishna ishvare. Wherever we wander in the material universe under the influence of karma by the will of the Lord, may our auspicious activities cause our attraction to Lord Krishna to increase. So it's a very, very humble expression, and it's reminiscent of Mahaprabhu's prayer in the Shikshashtakam, right? That Nadanam, Najanam, Nasundaram, Kavitam, Jagadisha, Kamaye, Mama Janmani, Janmanishware, Bhavatad Bhakti, or Haituki Toy, that, I don't want wealth or followers or sense enjoyment or liberation even, but birth after birth, I only pray for pure love, right, for you. And so it's quite a revolutionary statement in the sense that it's rejecting liberation, right, as an attainment to be had through spiritual practice. Because generally that's just taken for granted, right, in pretty much every religious tradition. Like the goal is liberation. The goal is salvation, moksha, right, or whatever. It has a different, in every denomination has a different name, but it's all like heaven or salvation or moksha, mukti. That's just like a standard. That's like logical in a sense, right? I'll remember God, I'll worship God, and then when I die, I'll be with God, right? I'll go to heaven. I'll be liberated from all the troubles of this world. It makes sense, right? It's logical. Mm-hmm. And so like in the theistic world, this is like a revolutionary statement that you see in the words of the pure devotees like Nanda Maharaj and Mahaprabhu also, right? That he's saying like, let me wander as I'm supposed to according to my karma, right? And Mahaprabhu is saying, let me take birth again and again. I just want to remember you. I just want to have love for you. So it's the most pure kind of prayer, right? No, it's unconditional. No strings attached, no conditions attached. It's the most pure expression of love. So very humbly, he's saying, by the influence of my karma, by the will of providence. What is actually the word here for? It says Ishwar, so by the Lord's will, Ishwar. So by out of the necessity of my karma, and he uses this word brahmyamananam. Brahmya is referring to wandering, just like Brahmanda Brahmite, right? You know that verse, right? Brahmanda Brahmite kona bhagyavan jiva. Guru Krishna Prasade Pai, right? Bhakti Lata Beach. The fortunate soul after wandering through so many. That's what we're doing in this world. Like we're just wandering aimlessly like vagrants, right? Like get along with yourself, you know. In a sense, because you see that word used, you know, just wandering, no real purpose, you know. Srila Sridhar Maharaj has one statement like that. He talks about the shika, actually, how the shika's tying us like to the foot of our guru, right? Well, not that I have. You've got one, right? Now there's like this new trend with some of our younger devotees. They just cut off their shika, and it's very sad. But happy to see Nitai. He's holding it proud. It's because it's so important, actually. It's very symbolic. So he's saying like let's see what he says. He says, a ship without or maybe I'm conflating two different expressions, but in one expression, Srila Sridhar Maharaj says, a ship without a rudder is just aimlessly wandering in the ocean, right? There's no objective, there's no plan, there's no guide, there's no direction, right? So the ship is just lost, wandering at sea. But if there's some, you know, captain, there's some rudder there, then you're moving with purpose, right? And then he also mentioned, it must be another expression, how he says the shika must be tied to the toe of our Guru Maharaj. Guru Maharaj will, you know, take us, carry us in the right direction. Like that. That's so if people ask, what's the shika for? To tie to our Gurudev. Tied to the toe of our Gurudev. So otherwise, you know, but so humbly he's saying, you know, may I wander as I'm supposed to, according to my karma, according to the higher will. But my only request, my only desire is that whatever auspicious things I'm carrying out, whatever auspicious activities I'm performing, the only result of that will be that I can remember Krishna. That I can remember. That my attraction, rati, he says, my attraction to Krishna, my taste for Krishna will increase. You know, that is my only desire. Very beautiful. Wherever we wander in the material universe under the influence of karma, by the will of the Lord, may our auspicious activities cause our attraction to Lord Krishna to increase. Shridamadi Braje Jatta Sakani Choye Aishwarya Gyanahin Keval Sakyamoye. Lord Krishna's friends in Vrindavan, headed by Sridham, have pure fraternal affection for Lord Krishna and have no idea of his opulences. Krishna Sange Juda Kore Skande Arohan Tadadasya Bhave Kore Charan Sevan. Although they fight with him and climb upon his shoulders, they worship his lotus feet in a spirit of servitude. So it's a very interesting thing, isn't it? Like how the residents of Vrindavan, they have so much freedom, right? And it can be difficult to comprehend. But the reason is actually that their surrender is so complete, right? And so deep that there's no question of them having any, you know, selfish motive, right? And so they're given, you know, full freedom. You know, whereas when, you know, in our own case, like we're following, you know, the path of vidhi to some extent, some regulation and timing and so on, like with offerings to the deity, for example, and there are very strict, guidelines, right? We don't use separate dishes, we don't use the same kitchen, like in cooking for the Lord, and that the whole idea around that actually is to promote a mood of respect, right, and honor, because in our current stage, we're just so polluted, right? We're so contaminated, and we can't expect to have pure love, right? at this current moment, because we're in such a mixed up condition. So the best we can hope for is a mood of honor and respect, right? Of course, some may have some touch of devotion, and ultimately it is our own gift, but we're covered by so many things, right? So at the present moment, it's helpful for us to have that somewhat of a reverential approach. Not fully, but I like one way Gurudev said it. What were the words he used? We're following Raga Marg hidden inside of Vidhi Marg, right? Raga Marg hidden inside of Vidhi Marg. So we're not fully following Vidhi Marg, and Gurudev would encourage, if we're talking about worship of the deity, Gurudev would encourage a personal approach, right? Like he told the devotees in London, in San Jose, take care of Mahaprabhu like you would your own son, right? And sometimes, through necessity of service, then devotees may overlook certain regulations, right? For example, the pujaris disappeared, and the puja needs to be done. The offering, Krishna's hungry. You got to serve him, give him some food, right? And someone has to do it. Maybe they're not fully clean, So sometimes we overlook, right? But for the most part, we're trying to keep some, regulated style of worship, right? And that's to promote this mood of respect, to help us in our own process of purification, right? And then gradually, genuine love can begin to develop, right, from that point. Because otherwise, if we're given full freedom, like in how we approach the Lord, then we could project our mundane tendencies, right? We'll mix things up also, and we won't really appreciate what is the real position of the Lord, our relationship. It'll be like, oh yeah, one of my buddies, or whatever, right? It'll be very that's like where Sahajiyism comes in, right? This imitationism and mixing up what is mundane and what is spiritual. And so for us, it's helpful to keep this element of reverence, right? But then at the higher level, the pure devotees of Vrindavan, they're given full freedom. They can whip Krishna, they can beat Krishna, they can take a bite out of their apple and hand it to Krishna. And why? Because there's no tinge of the exploitative tendency within them, right? It's just like you could also say with ourselves, like with people we don't know very well, we keep it a little bit of a distance, right? And we won't have like with a brother or sister, we may share an apple, right? But with someone we don't know very well, we don't know what their motives might be, we don't know what kind of habits they have, and we're not ready to share so much intimacy. Then we keep some polite behavior, right? So, but for someone who's very intimate, and we may have like a sibling, they would die for us. Like they would do everything for us, but they'll also, beat us and, slap us in affection and wrestle with us and treat us in a very intimate way, right? Because there's full trust. There's full trust, and they're actually ready to do anything for you, right? And so they're given that type of freedom in exchange, right? And so that is the spirit. They're ready to die 1,000,000 times over for the least desire of Krishna, right? And so they have full freedom in their relationship with him. And you play with him and tease him in so many ways. Although they fight with him and climb upon his shoulders, they worship his lotus feet in a spirit of servitude. And now we have a quotation from Bhagavatam. It's describing how Lord Krishna and Lord Balaram were playing with the cowherd boys after killing Dhenukasura and Talavan. Pada samvahanam chakru kechitasya mahatmanaha apade hatapapmano vyajanai samavijayam. Some of the friends of Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, massaged his feet and others whose sinful reactions had been destroyed fanned him with hand-held fans. Krishna prayasi braje datta gopi gan jar pada juli kore udava partan jasabha upade Krishna priyanahi han tahada panake kore dasi abhiman. Even the beloved girlfriends of Lord Krishna in Vrindavan, the gopis, the dust of whose feet was desired by Sri Uddhava and beyond, whom no one is more dear to than Krishna, regard themselves as Krishna's maidservants. And now we have another quotation from Bhagavatam spoken by the gopis. Braja janarti hanvira yoshitam nija jana smaya dvamsana smita bhaja sake bhavat kinkadi smano jaladuhananam charudarshaya. O Lord, remover of the afflictions of the inhabitants of Vrindavan, O hero of all women, O Lord who destroys the pride of your devotees by your sweet, gentle smile, O friend, we are your maidservants. Please fulfill our desires and show us your attractive lotus face.
Sorry, one question. What are their reflections?
What did you say?
Afflictions.
Afflictions.
Because our afflictions
Yeah.
are a little bit different.
Yeah.
Afflictions are, I've got a headache.
Can you guess?
No, I'm asking. I don't.
There's only one affliction that they experience: separation from Krishna. Yeah, no, it's
I want this affliction.
yeah,
this.
exactly, yeah, and in fact, it mentions in the purport they're chanting this verse in separation from Krishna. It's when they were in the rasa dance and Krishna suddenly disappeared, and so they're actually singing this in separation. And actually, it's a very good point you've brought up, actually, because Srila Maharaj has also discussed this. There it comes up in a few places. In Srimad Bhagavatam, there's this famous verse, Tava katamritam, maybe you remember, Tava katamritam tapta jivanam. And it mentions there, it's Tava katamritam tapta jivanam means souls who are like burning in the pain of this mundane existence. And Tava katamritam, the nectar of the gopis are again singing this in separation, saying, "Oh Krishna, the nectar of your words, glories of you, Tava katamritam, tapta jivanam, kavi biriditam, kalma safaham." Kalma safaham means something like removes all sins. So he's saying like the nectarian glories of you, they give relief to those who are burning, suffering in this world. It removes all their sin, right? Shravana mangalam, hearing that is all mangal, all auspicious, right? Srimada tatam bhuvi grinanti parida janaha. And those who are spreading these words, they are the greatest philanthropists in the world, right? And so Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he brings up that same point, like, how can you say that the gopis have sin, right? Or that they're burning in this world, you know? And so he said, actually, in their case, it's referring, of course, you can read in two ways. You could say for the general souls, yes, the Harikatha, right? It is purifying and relieving the souls of this world. But in the case of the Braja Gopis, that's not a factor. So in their case, it's referring to the darkness, the pain of separation. And so it's relieving there. And because this point also comes up in the Chatur Shloki of Bhagavad Gita, right? And Shilashi, could you pass me Bhagavad Gita? Thank you. I'll take the small one.
Sorry, this one. So actually, we don't even know what real pain really is.
That's actually true, because our pain is all based on illusion.
It's all based
That's
on
what's...
our own false sense of ourselves.
Exactly. We only experience pain because we're identifying with the body. But if we don't, I mean, even, and this isn't even like such a big deal. Like if you look, there are yogis who can get over that, right? Like, yogis who can like walk on fire and stuff, right? So, like, it's very funny. It's like the black humor about it, dark humor about it. Like all of our tribulation that we experience is meaningless. It's like, wow. Like everything that means so much to us, like it actually is just nothing. Like the story, like, and that, like this is the thing. Like this is why actually it's so difficult and rare for someone to really appreciate Krishna consciousness, because its starting point is so high. Its starting point is beyond liberation. Like what to speak of it being relevant to us suffering in this world? It's not even relevant, like for the liberated soul. It's like beyond that. It's like for example, the very last verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, Veda Vyas, he's glorifying the holy name. But the way in which he glorifies the holy name, he's like speaking to the conditioned souls of this world. And so there's this verse, Nama Sankirtanam Yasya Sarva Papa Pranashanam Pranamo Dukkha Shamanas Tam Namami Harimparam. He's saying that, let us all bow to the holy name of the Lord, the chanting of which can remove all of our sin and all suffering, like this. And Gurudev mentioned, like, actually, that verse always bothered him, and he said, because, like, that's not the real value of the holy name. That's nothing. That's just a very tiny aspect, right, of what it can do. And he said the real value of the name is that it can, give us devotion to Krishna. But he said, but I understand Veda Vyas. He's saying that because it will give encouragement to the people of this world. Right? But that, like, the story hasn't even started there, right? And I'm reminded also of, there's that incident with Haridas Thakur, right? When he gives this talk, he's invited as the guest of honor, and it's this big assembly, and he speaks on the glories of the holy name, and he mentions that that just through namabhas, just through a shadow of the holy name, someone can attain liberation. Like, not even coming close to the real name, just from a shadow of the name, you can be liberated, right? And not only that, that's just like an inconsequential side effect. Like, that's the perspective of the great devotees. Oh yeah, okay, yeah, you got liberation, okay. And he gives an example, a nice example too. And even before the sun has risen above the horizon, there's light in the atmosphere, right? But there's this one man in the audience. He's some kind of a Mayavadi, and he's highly offended because it's like an insult on everything that they're trying to do. Or even you could say, like, your average religious person. Like, the goal is liberation. The goal is salvation. So it's kind of like just, it's like a slap in the face. It's like a slap in the face. Yeah. And so this man, he got very offended because, there are people who will spend lifetimes practicing austerities, renunciation, meditation, and they're thinking, after millions of lifetimes, I may, if I'm very lucky, attain liberation. And here's Haridas saying, just through a shadow of the holy name, you can get it as a side effect. You can get liberation as a side. He's like, what? How can you say that? So that's the actual perspective. Like we are literally in the preschool class, where we are. And that's how Srimad Bhagavatam begins, right? Because Narada comes to Vyasa and he says, like, what have you done? Like, you've just given a whole hodgepodge of all these different ideas, and you've mostly given, in the way that Gurudev would say it, you've given you've given medicine for sick people. In other words, people who are suffering in this world, they have remedies, right? People who are suffering with the conditioning of this body and with so many desires, you've given something for them, right? In terms of dharma, artha, kama, moksha, like you've given them some help there. But what about healthy people? Like dharma, artha, kama, moksha is not relevant for a liberated soul, right? Just wealth, sense pleasure, ordinary duty or piety. And also liberation. If you're already liberated, none of those things are factors. So it's like you haven't actually described the path for a normal soul, like a healthy soul. Someone who's already reached the point of liberation. What's the positive and progressive way that they will live their life? Like, okay, liberation, and then what? Like, what's the life? And this is also related here, the title, Positive and Progressive Immortality, the subtitle. That's what Vaishnavism, only Vaishnavism is giving that, actually. What's the positive and progressive life of an immortal soul, of a liberated soul, right? You haven't described that clearly. And so that's the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, and that's the basis of Krishna consciousness, right? So it's very high, actually, for people like us who are just, experiencing suffering in this world, who are identifying with the body, right, just dealing with mundane desires, and it's like, you could say, in a sense, like, it's not relevant, right? Krishna consciousness is not relevant, in a sense, right? It's like, it's not going to help me in my life here and now, right? Could be, if Krishna wills it, but maybe not, probably not. Could make it worse, actually. Could make you just ruin your material life, right? It often does. So like how are people actually going to vibe with that, How are you going to explain to people, oh, this is relevant for your soul when it reaches liberation, right? It's not an easy thing, right? It's not an easy thing. Oh, but yeah, we were going to look at this verse in the chapter shlok. Let's see. Yeah, it's this one. Tesham evanu kampartam. It's the fourth of these 4 verses. Tesham evanu kampartam. Ahamma jnana jam tamaha. Nashayam yatma bhavasto jnana deepena basvata. Out of compassion for them, I, situated within the hearts of all living beings, dispel the darkness of ignorance with the radiance of knowledge. Right. So it mentions this tamaha, and, this ignorance, and then jnana deepena with the light of knowledge, right, dispelling darkness. But Srila Sridhar Maharaj, this is the general translation that's given. But Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he makes this very good point, right, that already in the previous verses, Krishna has been describing his pure devotees, right? And there's this verse, Mat Chitta, Krishna is speaking, right? Mat Chitta Madgata Prana Bodhayanta Prasparam Katayan Tascha Mam Nityam Tushanti Cha Ramanti Cha. Always thinking of me, those surrendered souls converse about me, enlightening one another with the nectar of their devotional realizations, ever content and ecstatic in their divine natures. And then the next one is Tesham Satata Yuktanam Bhajitam Priti Purvakam Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam Yena Mam Upayanti Te. Right, those devotees who are always lovingly engaged in my service. And so it's like Krishna's already been talking about his pure devotee. So where is the question? Srila Sridhar Maharaj makes this very good point. Where is the question of there being ignorance? Where is the question of them being enlightened with divine? They already have divine knowledge, right? And so Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he gives this very wonderful explanation that this darkness is actually referring to the darkness of separation. right? The affliction, as we said earlier. And so Srila Sridhar Maharaj gives a second translation. Being conquered by the love of those devotees who in their unalloyed loving devotion become afflicted, the same word, by the all-devouring darkness born of their pangs of separation from me. I illuminate their hearts with my presence, destroying the darkness of their pain of separation. And Param Gumaraj also gives some analogies here. And one, like when the devotee's at like that point of like, oh, I can't tolerate anymore. I'm just gonna die. And then Krishna comes and reassures them and shows his presence to them. And he mentions the example of Shachi Devi, right? That she's, because now Mahaprabhu is a sannyasi and Puri, and she's every day at home, right? She's cooking all his favorite dishes and crying, and then just when it becomes like unbearable, then Mahaprabhu appears, right, in one form there, and reassures her, and he eats those dishes, and then he disappears again. So yeah, this is a very high level.
Someone may think this world is very troublesome, the pains of this world, like situations and stuff, a lot of headaches, and then we were just talking about, but actually all this stuff is completely meaningless, and that
it's embarrassing, isn't it?
But then the pain that the gopis experience, or the surrendered souls experience in separation of Krishna is like, we can't measure that then, can we? We can't measure that, because so we're already like, like, oh, I just got fired, I mean, I'm just in so much agony, that's going to cause a lot of issues. But then the pain that the surrendered soul experiences for the Lord, I mean, we can't even imagine that. Then someone may say, ooh, that's even more painful? Why would I want to do that? Isn't it?
Yeah.
But then I guess
absolutely,
because it's worth it, because then Krishna may come and grace us. I mean, I don't know. Is that right? Or
well, I'll answer.
We're lucky.
I'll answer in this way. Srila Sridhar Maharaj once, when he was doing some collection, like as a young man in the mission, someone asked him the same thing. Like Srila Sridhar Maharaj is like asking for contributions, and this gentleman, he said, well, like why do you want this so much? Like he said, I've heard these descriptions of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he's experiencing the agony of separation. There's some very graphic descriptions, right? Like blood oozing from his body, and his teeth chattering, and his body sometimes contracting like a tortoise and sometimes elongating, and all the limbs are separated. And so he said, like, why, this gentleman, he said, why do you consider this desirable? Like how is this so wonderful? How is this the goal of your life, right? And Srila Sridhar Maharaj explained to me, quoted this one line of Kaviraj Goswami, Antare, how does it go? Antare Bisha Dwala Hoy, Bitare Anandamoy, Krishna Prem, Adbhuta Charit. That I'm sure you've heard it before. It's saying that love for Krishna, it is externally appears like suffering, like one is suffering from the poison of a serpent bite, from the bite of a poisonous serpent, but internally they're experiencing the greatest nectar. And this is the Krishna Prema Adbhuchari. This is the wonderful characteristic of Krishna Prema. And so it's not straightforward, right? There's a lot going on, because in that pain of separation we hear there's also a more intense type of union that takes place internally, inner connection with Krishna that takes place. So there are different layers there, you can say. And yes, ultimately, as you pointed out, that separation is drawing Krishna, and that at that 11th hour, right, then he comes and reveals himself and gives his connection. But yeah, ultimately, this is all achintya for us, right? We cannot comprehend such things.
Nice to know about it.
Yeah, it's nice to know about it, for sure.
It's the same.
I guess sometimes in some, I don't want to, compare and stuff, but in some weird way, a lot of people, they enjoy watching really sad films, and it makes them cry.
Yes.
Like, why would you want to do that? Like, why would you want to watch that? But they're getting some kind of enjoyment from that because of the sentimental. It moves their heart.
Yeah.
Right? But that's, obviously this is like very love.
Well, Srila Maharaj, he gives the same analogy, though. And I think he mentions like Romeo and Juliet, and there are many tales like this. You're crying, but you keep turning the pages.
Yeah.
There's a sweetness, there's a pathos there.
So this is a reflection.
Yes, you could say that. Yeah. And he also quotes, is it like Longfellow, that there's this poetic line, the sweetest tales. Do you remember it?
Sweetest tales of the saddest song, something like that.
Saddest thought, maybe. Yeah, sweetest tales tell of the saddest thought. Our sincerest laughter with some pain is fraught. Yeah, I think in Subjective Evolution he quotes it. Yeah. So so you could say it's a reflection. In this world, we have some experience of that. It's much more striking to the heart, and there is a type of sweetness within that, isn't it?
Where are we located if we said that we are not looking for liberation, but we want to start the path of devotional law? When we start this path, where are we located? Can we say that just because we have taken the name, we are liberated actually already? Yeah. Somehow, but...
we can say that through the practice of devotion, one will automatically become liberated, but it'll be just kind of like a stop on the train that you'll pass by and you won't even really notice. Something like that. At least in my case, I'm definitely not there yet. But eventually, it is as I mentioned earlier, it is like a side effect that will come about. Relief from suffering. Like there are many. Let's put it like this: there are many spiritual practices that are focused, like the yoga traditions, right? For example, they're focused on becoming free from suffering, becoming free from bondage. So you could say like their goal is here, but in the practice of devotion, right, in Bhakti Yoga or Vaishnavism, like the goal is up here, and on the way you'll automatically just cross by that point of liberation, and it won't even be much of a talking point, you could say, but it will be helpful, And it was interesting, in one talk Gurudev gave, he gave a different angle on this whole thing. Because if you look in Srila Sridhar Maharaj's talks, like, it's always like liberation, like poo-poo to that, right? But Gurudev, he gave this one angle once, saying, actually, he said, if we had liberation, it would help us, it would make it a little easier, right? And he mentioned Haridas Thakur's statement that even through namabhas, you can attain moksha, right? And Gurudev said, we should take that seriously. Haridas Thakur said that. And it's not that it's a bad thing, to have liberation.
Feel, or is it something that you feel like you walk around and say, "Oh, they're definitely not going to liberate"? Is it a?
I mean, I would think someone who's, I would say someone who's liberated, they would feel it within themselves that they're free from. Of course, it's easy to be self-deluded. That's the problem, right? To think you've achieved it when you haven't actually.
No, but Krishna will kick you in the head and say.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And like you're saying, you wouldn't really be that bothered in a way, like devotees are attaining.
Yeah.
Trying to attain that.
Yeah, it might be like, oh, that's nice. It makes it a bit easier. Can focus a bit more now. I can serve better, right? That's the idea, right?
But would someone feel that? Would they think, it's too abstract, isn't it, in a way? They think, a practitioner would be like, now I'm liberated now. You would never think that though, would you?
But isn't there that really...
I mean, I would say both sides are there.
Okay.
Because just like what we were saying about Nanda Maharaj, like sometimes they don't have awareness of Krishna's position, and sometimes they do. And I would say also we see that in the moods of the Vaishnavas. Like sometimes they're showing this very deep mood of humility and I'm a conditioned soul. But other times, you get a sense, they understand their position. Yeah, and I felt that with Gurudev. Yeah. And Gurudev also mentioned that in regards to Srila Sridhar Maharaj. How Gurudev it was like for 30 years, over some long period of time, Gurudev would every now and again bring up the topic of, because he had to have Srila Sridhar Maharaj's permission, like after he leaves, Gurudev wanted to make a samadhi temple, right? But Srila Sridhar Maharaj would always insist he wanted to be burned, right? And just burn my body. And he's like, if all the gurus, have samadhis, the whole planet will be covered in, samadhis, and just burn my body. And this was going on for years. But then Gurudev said, finally, in the last conversation, he said that Guru Maharaj, he could see that he was like acknowledging, okay. And in Gurudev, he said something like he was aware of his own position, like he had to see like from a neutral position. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he uses this word nirapeksha. It means this kind of like neutral standpoint. And you see sometimes in the writings of the Vaishnava acharyas, like you see in Srimad Bhagavatam, you see in Chaitanya Charitamrita, like sometimes they're glorifying their own work, like to a surprising degree. Like in the beginning of Bhagavatam, Vyasadeva is saying, this is the best book ever, it's come into existence. And Kaviraj Goswami also in Chaitanya Charitamrita is sometimes glorifying so extensively his own work, right? But Srila Sridhar Maharaj said, but they're saying this from this point of nirapeksha, like they're not seeing it as their own. It's coming through them, and they're recognizing it for what it is, right? This is actually what it is, right? And so I feel also there's that twofold feeling, right, in the mood of the Vaishnavas, that sometimes like extreme humility, but sometimes there's just an honest awareness. Oh, this is the condition, right? This is my position, right? Like that, but with not with ego like that. It's a different thing. So, and also, if a Vaishnava achieves liberation, then they have proper perspective. They're not very interested in it. It's like, okay. Sometimes, they're even like, oh, stay away from me, right? You hear verses like that too. Like in the sense that they don't want to get swallowed up by that whole world of just being liberated, right? They want to stay on track, right? And Bilva Mangal in his writings, he also describes, there's that verse like saying how Mukti Devi will come with folded hands to serve the devotee, right? So like that, they're seeing, if I can use this in my service, it's helpful, right? There's that Dharmartha Kama, but Gataya Pratiksha, like Dharma, Artha, Kama, the fruits of Dharma, Artha, Kama, they'll wait at a respectful distance, for some call of seva. And Mukti Swayam Mukali Tanjali Seva Tesman, and Mukti Devi will be with folded hands waiting, can I serve you in some way, right? So that's their mood. If I can use in service, right? So I can use liberation in my service, and that is okay, Those are my thoughts anyway.
I guess if you aim so high, you're aiming so high, is that overreaching, You see that, isn't it, in life anyway? If you have such a high goal, I want to do 10,000 push-ups. You do 10, you don't even think about it. Whereas, 10 might be like the highest goal for someone. Yeah. Right. Your aspiration is 10,000, 10,000 push-ups, 100,000. Wow, it's something ridiculous like that.
Right. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
I'm sorry, I know that's maybe very like...
No, I think it's good.
Overreach, yeah.
Maybe we'll stop there.
He said, meditation is very nice. And he said, I have no time for meditation. I just thought it was so wonderful. It was just like, it was so like, just simple and humble and, like I'm engaged in my service, And, I don't have anything against, anything else, but I just don't have time, I thought it was so harmonizing, like actually we could answer so many things like that. Why don't you do this or that? Like, oh well, all these things, we don't have any problem with them, but we're very busy in service to our Guru and Mahaprabhu, and our heart is captured here, right? Our heart is captured here. So all these things, right, liberation and power and knowledge, all these things can come, but we're serving Mahaprabhu. We're busy with that. Yeah, it's really beautiful. Jai Shri Bhakti Sundaramani Devi Swami Marshmi. Jai Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Radha Ki Hari Chukki. Jai Odi Sangat Rodis Ki Jai. Jai Rota Rodis Ki Jai. Shri Hari Nam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Jai Gaur Prem. I feel like Lavanya Didi has that type of mood actually. Like, I'm just busy with my seva. Everything else is very nice, but I'm busy with my seva.